See, why I am against the saying that all religions are same is because if you look at all the kind of cosmologies or all types of worldviews which are prevalent today, you will find you can classify them into two broad traditions of worship. One, let us call it Sanatan or natural. The other is prophetic. That is a basic difference between the structure of these two. I'll explain it further. In case of Sanatan, Sanatan means ever present. It was present earlier also and present today also, will be present in future also. That is what we say Sanatan, or if you don't like the nomenclature, you may say Vedic, you may say Arya, you may say even Hindu. So that is one worldview which I would try to say collectively as Indic thought process, because whatever is reflected in the Sanatan Dharma is also reflected in Buddhism, is also reflected in Jainism, and up to a very large extent in Sikhism. Okay. On the contrary, we have the prophetic religions, which are also called Abrahamic religions. The first one to originate was Judaism. The claims are that it is about 3,800 years old, or maybe roughly saying 4,000 years old. And from Judaism originated two new ideologies. One is Christianity, the other one is Islam. So they follow the same template. The underlying principle of Judaism, Christianity and Islam is same. What is the sameness? That at different intervals of time, at different historical periods, at different places, one particular God, which is somewhere above present somewhere, he appoints some person as his prophet. So this God does not talk directly, does not convey, does not transmit directly to his own creation. He uses an intermediary. Now why would he do that? I don't know, and I don't believe it also, but that is their belief system, right? So now he has chosen this prophet. How has he chosen? There is no transparent criteria. The prophet says that I have been chosen, so you have to believe he has been chosen. This prophet is going to receive messages from that particular God. How is he going to receive? There will be some angel who will transmit that message. Now what you have to remember is neither this angel nor the God is visible to the prophet. Is visible to the prophet, because he only can hear the angel, he only can see the angel, but nobody else can see or hear. So you notice the problem. The problem is that you have to trust this particular person who is claiming himself to be a prophet, which is very good for that person, because you are not God, but you are almost like God, because you are the sole mouthpiece of the God, right? Okay, anyway, now let us try to understand the basic differences between these two different traditions of worship. The first and foremost difference is that when we talk of Sanatan traditions, when we talk of natural traditions, there is a differentiation, right? See, when you are talking of different ideologies or worldviews, what is the basic criteria? The criteria will be that there will be some do's and don'ts, right? There will be some people who belong to that cosmology, and then some people who don't belong to that cosmology. So that there is going to be this difference of humanity. So humanity is going to be segregated into different kinds of people. When we are talking of Sanatan tradition, this division is based on the actions or the behavior of the individual. So if those actions are according to some well laid out principles, if that behavior is according to those principles, then the person is good, and the more he deviates from these principles or these ideals, the more he or she is considered to be bad. And the best example for this phenomenon can be found out in our scriptures, in the epics. For example, if we talk about Ramayana, the hero is Ram, the villain is Ravan. Both of them are devotees of Lord Shiva or Mahadev. So there is no difference in the mode of worship of these two. They are worshipping the same deity, but Why is Ravan considered to be a villain or a bad guy? Because he did some actions which were considered to be bad. He abducted a lady, which is considered bad. That is why this person is despised and considered to be not worthy of emulating, right? Totally contrary to it, the prophetic traditions, what they do is they also divide humanity, but this division is based on dogma. The division is dogmatic. What is that division? If you look at the Christian Bible, the division is between Christians and infidels. So the division is based on the mode of worship, on the deity whom you are worshipping. That is one basic difference. If you are worshipping Jesus Christ or you are worshipping Jehovah, you are Christian, you are the good guy. If you are worshipping somebody else, you are worshipping Ram, you are worshipping Krishna, Shiv, Devi Mata, Durga, any of these deities, even Allah, then you are an infidel, you are bad, and you can be killed. The scriptural authority says so. Similarly, the Islamic doctrine divides humanity into Mu'mins and Kafirs. So those who adhere to the ideology of Islam, they are Mu'mins, they are good, irrespective of what kind of life they are leading, what kind of actions they are doing, what kind of behavior they are having, they are good. Whereas a Kafir may be a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Jain, a Sikh, a Christian. He or she may be a very, very good person, very good human being, but the mere fact that he or she has not adhered to Islamic doctrines, he or she is condemned to go to hell and is a bad person, right? This is one major basic difference between these two kinds of traditions. Okay. If you are looking for evidence, you are looking for proof, right? Yeah, that's a good question. So what you can do is, I would suggest that you look up in their holy books. You look into Quran, you look into Bible, and that will give you the idea. For example, see, there is a lot of misconception. What they say is, there is a branch of these traditions of prophetic religions which is known as apologetics. Apologetics means you are going to justify that you are right and the others are wrong. Okay. What they say, so they try to deceive you by saying, no. A Hindu is not a Kafir. Kafir is somebody who is an atheist. They change the definition according to their own audience, according to their own situation, and according to their audience. But what you should know is that, let us say we are talking of Islam, the topmost authority of Islam is Quran, nothing else, right? So if you want to read the definition of a Kafir, Quran will give you the correct definition, which cannot be superseded by any Zakir Naik, any Mullah Maulvi, Imam, Mufti. Okay, so open up the chapter 98 of Quran, read its first verse. What does it say? The people of the book and polytheists, right? So that means, polytheist means what? Who is worshipping more than one god. For example, it can be a Hindu who worships Ram also, who worships Krishna also, who worships Shiv also. So a polytheist is a Kafir, is a non-believer, is an unbeliever. Okay. And when they are saying people of the book, the Arabic term is Ahle Kitab. So, which means that why are they called people of the book? Because they carry one book, they believe in one book, like Bible or Torah. So Jews believe in Jehovah, Christians believe in Jehovah, Jesus Christ. So they are believers, mind you, according to our definition. But according to the definition of Quran, they are Kafirs. Likewise, in the same chapter, chapter number 98, look at verse number 6. It further elaborates. Who are Kafirs? Polytheists and people of the book, and they are worst of the creation. Worst people created. So when they are trying to fool you that only homosexuals are kafirs, only atheists are kafirs, only agnostics are kafirs, they are misleading you. Here is the topmost authority of Islam which tells you. And same is applicable for Christianity also.